What if I told you that the most dangerous moment with a narcissist isn't when they vanish into silence, but when they come back? When a narcissist suddenly reaches out after a period of no contact, it's not just a message or a phone call. It's a test of your awareness, your strength, and the boundaries you've built. Carl Jung once said that human beings often hide behind a mask, the persona, to gain acceptance from society. But for the narcissist, that mask is their entire identity. Behind it lies the shadow, a void filled with emptiness, wounds, and the fear of exposure. In today's video, we're going to decode the narcissist's return through the lens of Jungian psychology. Why do they keep trying to reach out even after you've seen through them? What drives them to push past shame and knock on the door of your life once again? And more importantly, how can you avoid falling into the Hoover trap, a manipulation disguised as care and concern? Stay with me until the end, because once you understand the true motive hidden in their shadow, you'll not only see clearly why they come back, but also hold the key to standing firm, protecting your peace, and guarding your inner strength. Part 1. The persona and the return of the mask. When a narcissist tries to come back after a period of no contact, many people mistake it as a sign of unfinished love, remorse, or at least a genuine desire to make amends. Yet, if we look at this phenomenon through the lens of Carl Jung, a completely different story emerges. Jung once said that people never live entirely as themselves, but often wear a mask, the persona. This is the part of the ego shaped to conform to social norms, to create an image that is acceptable to others. For most of us, the persona is only an outer garment. It can be removed when we are in safe spaces, when we dare to live authentically. But for the narcissist, the persona is not just clothing, it is their entire existence. They no longer recognize themselves outside of that mask. The perfect image, the sweet words, the role of the ideal lover, the devoted friend, or the outstanding colleague, all of these are just fabricated versions. Yet once you have awakened, once you've exposed this disguise, the narcissist falls into crisis. Because you no longer react the way you used to. You're no longer drawn into the illusions they create. This is precisely when they return. But their return is not about love, it is about testing the strength of the mask. They wonder, does my mask still work? Can I still control this person's emotions the way I used to? Every message, every call, every sweet word is nothing more than an experiment to measure their lingering influence. If you respond even with just a trace of curiosity, an explanation, or anger in their eyes, that is already a victory, because it proves the mask still holds power, still has the ability to stir your inner world. On the other hand, if you remain silent, if you no longer waver, they become unsettled because the mask has lost its effect. Carl Jung observed that the persona is not an enemy, but it becomes dangerous when we mistake it for the self. Ordinary people can remove their masks when needed, but narcissists cannot. They've lost the ability to live authentically, and so when their mask is rejected, they feel as though their very existence is under threat. The return after no contact is nothing more than a desperate attempt to reassert that the mask still has value. What's important to understand is that, in the narcissist's eyes, relationships are never seen as a shared journey where two individuals grow together. For them, a relationship is only a stage, a platform for the mask to be praised. As long as you react, you unknowingly remain the audience that sustains the performance. But once you stop reacting, the stage becomes empty, and that is something the narcissist cannot bear. Their return, therefore, is more calculation than emotion. They know that being unmasked is a major defeat, but they also believe that if they can find the right weakness, play the right script, they can still make you falter. They may use false tenderness, bring up beautiful memories, or claim, "I've changed." These are merely new masks, refined after the old one has cracked. This is the moment when you must be most alert. The challenge isn't in their return, but in how you respond. Do you allow yourself to be drawn back into the familiar play, or do you choose to remain outside the theater, no longer an audience for the mask? Jung emphasized that the journey of healing is not about fighting another's shadow, but about confronting and understanding your own. When the narcissist comes back, what you need to see is not their charm or their apologies, but how you handle your inner emotions, the longing, the vulnerability, the desire for validation. These feelings are the anchors the narcissist seeks to latch onto. If you learn to observe them without acting on them, you strip the mask of its power. This is not easy. The mask once made you believe you were loved, cherished. But when you look deeper, you realize what you longed for was never in the narcissist, it was always within yourself. You wanted to be heard, to feel safe, to be seen. And once you give these things to yourself, their mask becomes meaningless. In truth, the narcissist's return can be seen as a rite of passage on your path to growth. It forces you to choose. Either step back into the old role, the provider of energy, attention, and validation, or continue on the path of inner freedom. When you choose the latter, you begin to live in the true Jungian spirit, to become yourself. And here lies true strength. When you are no longer manipulated by the mask, you begin to realize your worth does not depend on whether someone returns or not. That worth comes from your own growth, from your ability to stand firm against even the most subtle temptations. Part 2. The Shadow and the Fear of Losing Control. When Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, he did not mean an evil part to be eliminated, but the hidden aspects of the self denied, repressed, and unconscious. It could be fear, wounds, shame, or desires that one refuses to admit. For an ordinary person, the healing journey begins when they dare to face the shadow and learn to integrate it into consciousness. But for the narcissist, the shadow is intolerable. They spend their entire lives avoiding, denying, and burying it. And when you, someone who has stepped away from their performance, see through their mask, it is the moment their shadow is illuminated. This is what terrifies them to the core. When you stay silent, when you stop reacting, when you prove that their existence no longer dictates your emotions, their shadow roars to life. It whispers that they are worthless, that they are nothing more than an empty shell. It exposes the truth that their power only exists as long as someone continues to believe in the act. And this truth to them is unbearable. Imagine a person who has built their entire life on the foundation of illusion. They wear dazzling masks to escape emptiness. But when you walk away, the foundation trembles. The shadow they've worked so hard to bury surges back. The fear of abandonment, the anxiety of never being good enough, the deep insecurity that they are nothing without someone reflecting them back. Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." But the narcissist cannot do this. They cannot look into their own darkness. It is too painful, too raw. Instead of facing it, they seek to control others, turning them into mirrors that reflect their false self. And when you break that game, they lose control. The fear of losing control is at the core of every attempt to return after no contact. The narcissist cannot accept that you could be happy, peaceful, and free without them. To them, that vision is like a death sentence for the false self. Because if you can stand strong without their presence, then the power they once held over you was nothing but illusion. That is why they try to return. Not to love, not to apologize, but to test whether they still have influence. A simple message, "How have you been?" can be their probe. If you respond, they feel hope. If you remain silent, they feel threatened. In both cases, what they are monitoring is not you, but their own ability to silence the shadow that screams inside them. This fear of losing control also makes them more dangerous. When the narcissist sees their mask rejected, they may escalate, shifting from sweet words to attacks, from feigned vulnerability to threats. Every action circles around one goal: to regain control. For them, letting someone else be free means being devoured by their shadow. But here, you must remember something crucial. Their shadow is not your responsibility. You cannot heal them, nor can you erase their inner fear. That fear belongs to them, and only they can face it. What you can do is recognize that their return does not reflect love, but an inner crisis they refuse to confront. Jung believed that every human must undergo individuation, the journey of becoming oneself, by integrating both light and darkness. But the narcissist often stops at the gate of this path. They refuse to face the darkness because it would force them to acknowledge their original wounds, a childhood rejection, the sense of never being enough, the shame buried for years. Instead of confronting it, they manipulate others to carry that burden for them. When you leave the relationship, when you stop reacting, you not only reclaim your own freedom, but also force their shadow into the open. And this truth, for the narcissist, is more terrifying than any rejection. They come back because they think that by regaining control over you, they can temporarily silence the voice of the shadow. But that is only a short-lived fix. The shadow will always return, stronger and darker, because darkness does not disappear through avoidance. It disappears only through recognition and integration. And that is the one thing the narcissist will never do. You, however, are different. You have already begun that journey by daring to face the truth of the relationship. By accepting the pain and learning to stand firm, you are walking the path Jung described, the path of light through darkness. And that is the fundamental difference between you and them. The narcissist's fear of losing control is theirs alone. It is no longer your burden. You do not need to carry it, prove anything, or go back to soothe their shadow. Their return is only a reminder of how far you've come. Remember this: you do not need to be a mirror for their mask, nor a shelter for their shadow. You only need to be yourself. And when you stand firm in that truth, their fear of losing control can no longer touch you. Part 3. Holding on to yourself, Jung's key. If the persona is the mask the narcissist wears to hide, and the shadow is the darkness they cannot face, then the only true solution to escape this toxic cycle is learning how to hold firm to yourself. This is the path Carl Jung called individuation, the journey of becoming one's true self, where a person integrates both the light and the darkness within. When a narcissist returns after no contact, many people fall into the trap of doubt. Have they really changed? Are they sincere this time? Am I being too rigid by staying silent? These questions don't come from truth. They come from your own fear of abandonment. The narcissist knows this very well. They understand that if they touch the right wound, you may waver. But here is where Jung teaches us a principle. No one can make you feel small without your consent. Instead, holding on to yourself does not mean being rigid or emotionless. It means seeing the situation clearly. Try to look at their return not through a longing heart, but through the eyes of an observer. You'll see that every promise, every tear, every sweet word is aimed at one thing only: regaining control to fulfill their own needs. Once you recognize this, you'll stop being pulled into their game. Jung emphasized that inner freedom does not come from controlling others, but from controlling how we respond. This is the crux. You cannot change the nature of the narcissist, but you can completely change how you respond. If you react with anger, they feed on it. If you react with explanations, they use it to prolong the bond. But if you respond with conscious silence or with clear boundaries, you send a powerful message that their power is over. Holding firm, according to Jung, is also about facing your own shadow. What makes you waver is not the narcissist's words, but the fragments inside you, the feeling of not being good enough, not being worthy of love, not being safe without external validation. The narcissist only manipulates by pressing on those wounds. Therefore, holding on to yourself isn't just saying no to them. It's saying yes to yourself, yes to self-respect, yes to peace, yes to the healing journey. In this context, Jung's words echo like a compass. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Holding firm means refusing to live as someone else's shadow, refusing to be the audience for the narcissist's mask. Instead, you become the center of your own life. You no longer crave their counterfeit validation because you've learned to validate yourself. In reality, holding firm also means accepting a hard truth. The narcissist will never give you a fair ending. They will never sincerely apologize, nor will they ever admit you were right. But that no longer matters, because true victory does not lie in their change, but in yours. The moment you stop seeking their approval, you've stepped into a new level of freedom. Picture this. The narcissist returns with a sweet message, hoping you'll soften. In the past, you might have reacted instantly, heart racing, mind clouded, a part of you longing for a miracle. But now, you look at the message with calm. You see the manipulation beneath it, and you choose not to respond. That is the power of holding firm. It is not loud, not dramatic, but it is a resounding victory. A victory in silence. Jung called this the light of self-awareness. When you are aware enough to see the game, you no longer get pulled in. When you are strong enough not to react, you've broken the cycle. And when you choose peace over chaos, you take another step on the path of individuation. Holding firm also means learning to set boundaries. Boundaries are not just saying no to the narcissist, but saying yes to what nourishes your soul. Healthy relationships, good habits, experiences that help you grow. Every time you choose these, you reclaim pieces of your strength that were once stolen. Ultimately, holding on to yourself is an act of self-love. It is the declaration, I do not need you to feel valuable. I do not need to be fuel for your mask. I am whole as I am. And that is the greatest lesson Jung left us with. To break free from toxic relationships, you don't need to change the other person. You only need to become yourself. Looking back on this entire journey, we see a profound paradox. What drives the narcissist to return, even after being exposed, is not love or remorse, but the fear of losing control. They put on the persona, the mask of perfection, to cover up the shadow inside, filled with emptiness and wounds. And when you walk away, when you stay silent, when you no longer react as before, they are forced to face that shadow, something they've spent their whole lives trying to avoid. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when the narcissist comes back, you are given a precious opportunity to prove exactly that. An opportunity to choose freedom over bondage, peace over chaos, truth over illusion. Their return is not a gift, it is a test. But this test is no longer about whether you can hold on to them. It is about whether you can hold on to yourself. Remember, you do not need to prove anything to them. You do not need to explain, nor do you need to wait for an apology or an admission. True victory does not lie in changing the narcissist. It lies in the fact that you have changed. You have learned to recognize the game of power, to face your emotions without letting them be manipulated. And above all, you have learned to love and protect yourself. In the light of Jungian psychology, this is the essential step of individuation, the journey of becoming whole. You are no longer a mirror for someone else's mask, nor a shelter for the shadow they run from. You become the center of your own life, someone who knows their value, who sees both the light and darkness within, and is willing to live authentically with both. And that is true freedom. Freedom is not when the narcissist disappears, but when their presence or absence no longer dictates your peace. Freedom is when you can smile, knowing you are no longer bound by cycles of manipulation. So if today you are facing that testing moment when the narcissist returns after silence, see it as an opportunity to affirm your real strength. You have the right to choose silence, to choose boundaries, to choose peace, and believe that every time you choose yourself, you take another step on the path of becoming the free and conscious human being Jung spoke of. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you found these insights helpful, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Share this video with someone who needs it. Sometimes a timely message is all it takes to help them awaken and protect themselves. Our community is here to understand together, to heal together, and to grow together. You are not alone on this journey.